Another quick story, kind of topical right now. Doing some work with a few different groups around Canada about how do we tell stories here in Canada in different parts of the country in order to get ourselves feeling more united, because we need to be united as a nation right now, given what's going on in the world around us and the threats we're all facing right now. Here's just one little data point that's kind of fun and interesting. If you're talking to people in New Brunswick, make it about how whatever it is you want them to do is about experiences. They love experiences. That's a value that they share, the general population of the province of New Brunswick. Whatever it is we're trying to get them to do, tie it back into how it's going to improve the quality of their experiences. It's going to make their life more full of experiences. If we don't do these things, your experiences are going to be damaged. Whatever the message is, tie it up around experiences. Now, over on the West Coast in British Columbia, they don't give a hoot about experiences. It's not even on their top 10 list. But you know what is, that doesn't show up in New Brunswick? Creativity, a value on the West Coast. So you need there to say, here's why we all need to get ourselves behind this policy or this approach, or fasten our seatbelts for what's about to happen to our economy. It has to be about creativity, how we're doing creative things to tackle this problem together, and how by doing that, the creative output of our nation is going to increase, and make it about that value. Different people in different parts of the country are interested in hearing about things in different ways. Now, I mentioned this already. After talking to 1 million folks, we figured out there's only 56 values. There's only 56 buttons we need to know how to push in order to get people inspired, motivated, and engaged. I'm going to show you 3 that are going to work to help your industry talk to the folks here in this province. But I want to just pause here for a second, because when you think about it, there's 9 billion of us in the world, and there's only 56 things that make us different from each other. That's a pretty nice, hopeful message right now, at a time in history when so many people are trying so hard to convince us that we're really, really different from each other, because it helps them with their objectives. There's really only 56 things that make us different from each other. There's 88 keys on a piano keyboard. It's harder to learn how to play Happy Birthday on the piano than it is to understand the sum total of what's driving every human on earth to do everything they do all day long. I guess it's a pretty hopeful, lovely thing to have found out. So I always like sharing that with people. There's the 56 values. Have a look at that. Just scan quickly. This isn't the most scientific way in the world to do this, but just have a quick scan of that and see which ones kind of pop out to you and make you feel like, yep, that's probably one of mine. That's probably one of mine. Now imagine if somebody came along and said, I'm going to tell you something that's going to give you more of those things. That'd be pretty irresistible. And if somebody else came along and said, I'm going to do some stuff that's going to hurt those things, you'd do a lot to get that person out of your life and to embrace that first set of ideas coming from that first person. It's powerful stuff when you start to really unpack this and see what's going on inside people's hearts and minds. Last slide before I unveil the data that I've created for you. I really want to put this into some context, because a lot of times you heard me talking about labels up here. We're talking about demographic labels and about how they're really not a great way to understand people. People go, David, you're a demographic hater. I said, well, you know what? I think demographics and those labels, they have a place. You know, my company used to help large-scale real estate developers around the world building luxury condo towers in big, giant cities all over the planet. And demographically, we knew the $10 million penthouse on the top floor wasn't going to sell to the 17-year-old working at the grocery store across the street. There's a demographic reality sometimes about who we're trying to talk to and engage and motivate and inspire, but what we're doing wrong. And I urge you to check this notion when you're doing this in terms of telling your story at this moment to the people of Alberta, is to don't assume that demographics tell you who people are. No glitter in my life. I'm not the same as everybody else who's demographically the same as me. So they're a great way to put a fence around a group of people and say, here's who we're interested in trying to impact, but that doesn't mean we know who they are on the inside. We just know what they are. We can see what they are on the outside. That's it. One leg of the 3-legged stool. Second leg, psychographics. I don't know if you've all heard this term, but it's basically everything else we know about a group of people except their demographics. So what do they think about things right now? How often do they buy beef? Why are they buying beef? What do they do for a living that is somehow tangentially related to this? What is their emotions, their likes, their wants, their needs? All that other stuff that isn't demographic labels, that's all psychographics. And it's all useful because you can see patterns in there and go, okay, well, if this is how they've always behaved, then the chances are they're going to continue behaving like this. But the problem with psychographic information and trying to use that to understand how to engage and motivate and inspire people is that it's all from the past, because we already know it. Right? We figured it out, we wrote it down, and we know it. So it's already a thing that happened. And what we're all trying to do is figure out how to get people to change the way they think about us and change the way they think about the world next, in the future. So using data from the past to try and drive the car forward into the future, it's like driving the car by looking in the rearview mirror. Maybe you're going to get there eventually, but you're going to go into the ditch a couple times and maybe hit a telephone pole. Why don't we just look out the windshield and say, what are their values? That's how to influence folks. That's where they're headed. Let's use that as a way to understand people, and we don't have to worry about looking in the rearview mirror.